Hi, everybody. I want to interrupt programming here to let you know about a tornado warning that has been placed for Hart County, Georgia, Elbert County, and Franklin County, Georgia, as we're watching these cells back from Atlanta, North Georgia, moving into the upstate and surrounding areas. We're watching it very closely as these areas do have some rotation, and just got word from Carnesville, Georgia, that we do have a funnel cloud that has been spotted. So we have some ground truth to this, and Live Super Doppler 4 is right on it, and a great spot to see both of these cells that are rotating. There are two right here, one over Carnesville where we had that reported funnel cloud, also another cell that's sitting over Bowman that's pushing toward the south and east. This tornado warning right here is valid for another 30 minutes until 4:30 right here. As we continue to watch this closely, these areas are going to continue to see the rotation. We're watching it closely in these areas. 4:30 would be the time frame that we're watching this for Elbert County, Hart County, and Franklin County. You need to be seeking shelter right now. We have had some reports of this producing a funnel cloud in these areas, and look specifically at where the winds are twisting and turning. We do have some confirmation of Live Super Doppler 4 in that area that the atmosphere is rotating, and that storm does show signs that it is giving us the possibility of a tornado in Carnesville pushing toward the south. I'm going to put this in motion and show you where we're talking about. This is a tight, compact, rotating thunderstorm that is over Carnesville and could produce a tornado. That rotation moved just over I-85 near Carnesville, heading toward the Livonia exit. And as this continues to move on through, still getting a signature of rotation right there in Carnesville. So anybody in Cannon, Royston, you need to be seeking shelter right now. And then we have a separate cell that is rotating. This one actually becoming a bit stronger of rotation. This over Hart County. So two separate cells, two separate rotating thunderstorms, both of which could give us the possibility of a tornado. So two cells right here. I'm going to circle one right there in Hart County, the other one over Carnesville in Franklin County. Both are over the Georgia-South Carolina state line, pushing toward the south. So Bowman, Hart County, Franklin County. You need to seek shelter right now if you're watching this. Across the upstate, it has been a rainy day, and so far nothing is rotating near Greenville or Spartanburg. But for our viewing area, our audience watching right now in northeast Georgia, you need to be seeking shelter for the potential that there are two tornadoes out of this. We have had a history of this cell that is sitting over Carnesville. Two reports now, two reports that we've had that cell produce rotation. Ben, if you could turn that monitor just a little bit, that'll help me see this. Got that cell that prompted the tornado warning. Two spotters, thank you, Ben, giving us the possibility of rotation, and we're getting the fact that this has had a history of giving us that. I want to check out our sky cam that gives us a great look looking toward Georgia from Lake Hartwell and Anderson. This is our Portman Marina sky cam looking toward that storm right there. We're watching it very closely. So for you folks that are watching right now in Georgia, please seek shelter, get to your safe place. There are two cells right now that are watching and giving us the potential for rotating thunderstorms. I've got Live Super Doppler 4 watching this very closely. Lake Hartwell, as a crow flies, sitting at about 10-20 miles away from this cell. That two of them, in fact, are giving us the potential for a rotating thunderstorm or a tornado. I want to show you this bright spot that's now showing up on Live Super Doppler 4 near Cannon. That is a well-pronounced hail core. This is a very healthy looking tornadic cell, unfortunately so. You see right in there, that is the hail core with this. The rear frank downdraft is in this location, so a possible tornado could be sitting right in here. That's also where we're seeing the highest rotation on Live Super Doppler 4, the twisting and turning of the winds. When you see the red and the green meeting, that is a sign that the atmosphere is rotating and possibly giving us that tornado, and that also goes in line with the storm spotter that has seen the possibility of a funnel cloud there in parts of Hart County. So watching that very closely there. Also watching the cell that is in Hart County pushing toward the south. Got the red and the green meeting there. That is not a tornado warned cell, but it is one I'm watching very closely. I'm going to put both of these in motion to kind of see the fluctuation that Live Super Doppler 4 is seeing. The brighter the colors, the more rotation. It looks like that one in Hart County is beginning to subside a little bit, but the red and the green, they're there. So that is still a rotating storm. The one over Franklin County is a bit more concerning. The color colors are brighter. They are showing more rotation, more intense rotation, and the possibility that we have a confirmed tornado right there, at least confirmed rotating storm. We've had that show signs a couple of different times here. So slicing this storm in half, you've got the hail core pronounced in here over Royston. That tells me it is a strong supercellular storm, but it's also giving us that hook on the backside, which is giving us the potential for some rotation. We are right on the outskirts of where the most unstable air is today, as it's over Alabama, North Georgia, Atlanta, westbound. We're right on the outskirts of where any kind of warnings, watches are located right now. Our atmosphere just volatile enough. As I turn on the storm fuel, there's not much of it across the upstate. So for those of you watching in Greenville, in Spartanburg, in Asheville, even as far away as Anderson eastbound, you're just not unstable. Temperatures have been cool today because of the rain, but not so much to our south, as we've had more storm fuel and there's some rotating air in this area. So watching this specifically for Hart County, Elbert County, and Franklin County, there is still a rotating thunderstorm in this area. You can see that hook well pronounced on our live Super Doppler 4, which is giving us a great way of seeing this right now. You can see it in Cannon, Carnesville, Royston, as we're seeing it move on through these areas, just cross the I-85 corridor. So let's get in closer and show you street by street where this is happening right now, and a couple of lightning strikes out of that as well. Over Carnesville is another sweep of live Super Doppler 4 is coming on through. So putting a storm track on it, Carroll's Church, Franklin County, Cannon, and then Brown Hospital. You need to be seeking shelter right now. This storm is heading towards you in the next 30 minutes. Watching that closely in those areas. Ben, if you'll switch the chat room, let's switch the chat room to the other one. Just switch tabs on the Google Chrome there. Thank you. Watching this closely here, two cells in fact, that are producing the potential of a tornado. That's great. Franklin County, Hart County getting 1-inch sized hail, also seeing the potential of that rotating thunderstorm in Hart County. That is a separate cell. So you can see the really three hooks that we have in place right now that are giving us that potential for the rotation. 1, 2, and 3. I'll circle these for you so you can see where we're talking about. For those of you watching us in Northeast Georgia, there is 1, there is 2, and there is 3. This is right on a boundary that has had warm air to the south and cooler air to the north. In fact, it's 72 in Spartanburg while it's nearly 80 degrees in Elberton. That boundary of warm and cool air providing for the train track, so to speak, to give us the potential of tornadic activity. So to recap, if you're just now tuning in right now, we have a tornado warning in place for Elbert County, Hart County, and Franklin County until 4:30. Watching it very closely, live Super Doppler 4 is in alert mode. We're watching the cell as it's moving south and east. We'll get a close eye on this right here, live Super Doppler 4, which sits right off of I-85, and a great spot to watch this, and you know that we are. Let me zoom into this cell because this is a pronounced supercellular storm. This is really a textbook. You've got the hail core right here over Cannon, and then you've got this rear flank downdraft on the back. You see that hook? That's the concern right in here with where we could have a tornado in that location. So I want to match that up with where our velocities are showing the strongest winds meeting each other, where the red and the green meet. That is the most severe and concerning part, because that means the air is rotating. The brighter the colors, the stronger the rotation is in that area. And as I look at debris, thankfully I'm not seeing that flash out at me. Now if we start to see some brighter colors on this, that would tell me we possibly have damage occurring and possibly being lofted in, picked up by live Super Doppler 4. So thankfully not seeing that right now. We do definitely have a rotating thunderstorm. A funnel cloud has been spotted in Carnesville, and this cell is moving south. And as I look at live Super Doppler 4, it's not showing any signs of letting up its circulation right now. Where the red and the green are is where we have that circulation. And I've got at least 3 cells that cause me concern for tornadic activity. 2 pronounced. You see them right there. 1 over Elbert County, 1 over Hart County, and the border of Franklin County. So we need to be watching this closely. The more concerning one right here that sits right over Franklin County, that is some intense rotation. It's over Casey Road. It's over Norris Terrace, Norris Road, where the 2 meet, and then Black Snake Road. You go down toward Highway 17. You're in the path of this, and then eventually Royston. So if you have family or friends in this area, get on the phone, give them a call, let them know that this is a tornadic cell. that has had a history. We've got 2 reports now of a funnel cloud rotating thunderstorm there in Carnesville as it crossed over I-85. That prompted the tornado warning. We had the rotation, we were watching them. When we got some ground truth to that, it prompted the National Weather Service to issue that warning, which does continue right here. We're getting reports from Hart and Elbert County right now of hail and wind gusts in excess of 40 miles per hour. That is in and around this cell that is producing the possible tornado. You can see as we put this in motion over Cannon, Franklin County, stretching into Hart County, watching both of these very closely. Strong winds mixed in with this potential as it's really just a mess. There's no way else of putting it. You've got 2 cells that are rotating within this mess and then multiple other strong cells that are back toward Commerce, the I-85 corridor, really stretching from Atlanta to the South Carolina state line. It is a complete mess right now, folks. Can't stress it enough. If you have family or friends that may be traveling to or from Greenville, Spartanburg, the upstate, from Atlanta, it's not worth it. Just don't try to drive through this. Of course, traffic this time of day, terrible anyway leaving Atlanta. It's best just to pull over, let this storm activity push on south because it is a complete mess up and down the I-85 corridor. We've been watching this closely from our Anderson Skycam over Lake Hartwell, and a great spot to be able to see this cell as it's moving from Georgia toward the north. We're kind of on just the outside of this storm as we're watching it very closely here on Live Super Doppler 4. So if you're just now tuning in, we do have a tornado warning, not for the upstate, but for northeast Georgia. It does include Franklin County, Hart County, and Elbert County. Our job here is to keep you safe, give you the information you and your family need so that you can make the decisions you need to keep your family safe. What I'm telling you right now, don't be traveling on I-85. There are rotating thunderstorms. They are fierce, leaving South Carolina into Georgia, right over the Franklin County line. So as you're crossing Lake Hartwell from Georgia or from South Carolina into Georgia or vice versa, that's where you're going to run into the worst of the weather right now as it's pushing slowly toward the south and east. So in this mess, we have a lot of heavy rainfall. We have the potential of some hail in some locations, but the tornadic cell in this is pushing toward areas like Franklin County and Hart County, as well as Elbert County. Watching both of these cells closely, I'm going to get in and give you 2 storm tracks here, one with the most concerning track, and that is pushing toward the south and east. So these areas like Royston, Gold Mine, Bowman, and then Hardcash, you need to be getting to your safe place right now. That's an interior part of your home, away from doors and windows. You want to be away from anything that could cause debris to fly into your house. Okay, that'd be an interior hallway, a bathroom, a bathtub even. Go ahead and get into that interior part of your home, away from any of that mess as this rolls on through. Then we have this other rotating thunderstorm, which currently does not have a warning on it. It's just outside of that, but it is a rotating thunderstorm. That is pushing into Elbert County. So for you folks in 13 Forks, near Ruckersville, you need to be seeking shelter right now. That's heading toward you within the next 10-15 minutes. And this is all part of a secondary line of storms rolling our way from the soaking rain we had this morning. I've got good news and I've got bad news. Across the upstate, it's good news. We are worked over from the earlier rain so that we don't have that much instability. So as this action's rolling through Greenville, into Spartanburg, even into Anderson, we've got some lightning strikes out of it, certainly. And I know that as you're watching right now, probably in these areas that are seeing rain or even some significant lightning in Pickens or Easley, Seneca, back through Clemson, I'm not as concerned about tornadic activity for you. Certainly still on the table, but right now Live Super Doppler 4 is just not mapping out that potential right now for you as we see more stable conditions. Live Super Doppler 4 giving us that brand new track as it comes in. We do not have tornadic cells in the upstate right now. Where we do have them over northeast Georgia, that would include Hart County, Franklin County, and Elbert County, where a warning is in place until 4:30. Watching that activity very closely along I-85. It's just south of the I-85 corridor as this raced on toward the south. I'll put this in motion right now for Franklin, Hart, Elbert counties. You need to be getting into your safe place right now. Let's take another slice at this. This is basically taking all the other information off except for the wind speeds. This gives me basically an X-ray inside the storm to let me know where the activity is rotating. Where are we seeing rotating thunderstorms, not just strong winds? And you see 2 flashes come out to you. Anytime you see a red and green meeting, that tells me the wind direction is going toward the radar right here and away from the radar right there. So that is why you get a potential tornado in these locations. Brand new scan just came in from Live Super Doppler 4 as we want to analyze this. Still seeing rotation out of both of those cells, even more rotation back toward Commerce. That's just outside of our area, but just to tell you how pronounced and strong these storms are as they're pushing to the south. Got to watch them closely here across southeastern Franklin County as it moves into Hart County. So Cannon to Royston to Bowman to Coldwater, Elbert County. You need to be seeking shelter right now moving into these interior parts of your home. Again, putting this in motion, not seeing this activity in the upstate. We do not have tornado warnings for the upstate. It's right across the state line into Georgia for Hart County, Franklin County, and Elbert County as this warning continues for another 30 minutes right here. I do see signs that it's at least trying to slack up a little bit, not be as pronounced. If we'll take this full real quick, I'm going to dissect some information that's flashing at me over here. I want to show you what's happening right now in these areas because this warning is in place until 4:30 for Franklin County and Hart County. Watching it closely for these folks, getting some storm reports in here for this activity. Had 2 reports of spotters reporting funnel clouds there in Carnesville, Franklin County, not getting reports of damage, and that is certainly some good news. So we've seen the feistiness of this storm crop up. We have also seen the potential that these storms are producing tornadoes. It looks like from what I'm seeing here, the main line back toward the west is trying to catch up with these tornado warned storms. As I pause it here, just probably 15 to 30 minutes ago, notice how these cells in Franklin and Hart counties were off by themselves, what we call discrete in the weather worlds. They're by themselves, they're alone. But look what's happening here. It looks like this line back toward the west is catching up with these 2 cells, and that's a good thing for the tornado concern because that kind of consolidates it all into one main line. Certainly a fierce line of gusty winds and heavy rainfall, but we can handle that. We just don't want the rotation. And a storm is much more vulnerable out by itself to begin to rotate than it is inside of a line. So watching this for Elbert County, Hart County, these areas near Bowersville, pushing southeastbound toward Bowman. You need to be taking this storm seriously as we continue to have the potential of 2 rotating thunderstorms in our area, one over Elbert County and one about to cross into Hart County right now. The good news is I analyzed the debris field. I'm not seeing anything that's screaming out to me is causing debris, and I've got the storm reports up right now, not seeing anything from you. Please let us know in our chat rooms. Those of you watching on Facebook, on our app right now, let us know if you're seeing anything different. We want to know that, but so far just 2 funnel cloud reports that I'm seeing coming in right now from Franklin County near the I-85 corridor that has prompted that tornado warning in those areas. So we're watching that closely for Hart County, and it looks like they're trimming out Franklin County, at least the heart of Franklin County, with a new drawn up warning here. You see it flashing at me right here. Let's kind of query this and give you a look at what's going on. So this tornado warning will continue until 4:30. It's been trimmed up a little bit to now take out Carnesville, where this all started basically. You're seeing it roll on through these areas, but Sandy Cross, Royston pushing into Hart County, right along the county line, you are still under this warning as it pushes toward Gold Mine and surrounding areas. This is heading toward Hart County, especially western Hart County along Highway 29 near Gold Mine, near Vanna, near Royston, up through Cannon. Watching this with lots and lots of lightning in these areas as well. That's where we're possibly seeing this rotation. That's where we could have a tornado right now. I want to turn Live Super Doppler 4 into alert mode. That kind of gives us a different perspective, a different scan. We're watching it. Anytime you see that red icon, it means that dangerous weather is either happening now or about to happen. In this case, it's the strong winds. You see another severe thunderstorm warning being pushed to the south with that activity as we're watching both of these cells as they roll on through, as Live Super Doppler 4 gives us that advantage, giving us that instant look at where the storms are located right now, not minutes later, but right now. And we're able to track this street level. And it does look like, as I mentioned a minute ago, that line back toward the west is moving in at a faster clip, a faster pace than what these discrete cells were. And that's kind of, for lack of a better term, gobbling up the discrete cells. So we like gobbling up. We want to see that, all right? Let's look at the velocity because those are coming down as well. They're not as bright. I'll put this in motion. You can see where we've gone over the past 30 minutes. Look at those bright returns over Carnesville. No doubt we had a funnel cloud in those areas. Look at that bright band right there. and certainly cropped up over Carnesville, and that's where we had the reports of 2 funnel clouds coming into the Weather Center. Also had that flare up there in Hart County pushing into Elbert County. So that was kind of the peak of it here just before 4 o'clock. And since then, it looks like that line back toward the west is basically consolidating all of this into one main line, consolidating it into one messy line, if you will. But thankfully, it looks like it is gobbling up those 2 smaller cells, which we like. You don't want to see a cell off by itself. Anytime it is, it's more vulnerable to the atmosphere. And this atmosphere is volatile back toward the west. It's much, much warmer in the 80s in Georgia than we have been in the 60s and 70s in the upstate in western North Carolina. Just confirming with the National Weather Service, they too have not seen any reports of damage. So that is certainly promising news as we're watching this dangerous weather right now. Not getting reports of this causing damage certainly has the potential to. So I do not want you to be letting your guard down. I want you to stay tuned to this, because until I see this rotation go away, I don't want you to let your guard down, okay? I don't want that. It's a busy time of day here at 4 o'clock. You're thinking about what's for dinner, where you're picking up kids, where you're going. And in this case right now, I need you to kind of hold off of going on I-85 for about another 30 minutes till the worst of this can push south of 85. Got a severe thunderstorm warning issued right here for parts of Hart County, Elbert County. That's going to continue along with this tornado warning, which is in place for the Franklin County, Hart County line. And as we look out from our sky cams, we've got a bevy of cameras across the area. It's just raining and cool across Greenville, but a different story in Anderson westbound, as we have seen a lot more unstable conditions crop up today, and that has led to us seeing a little bit of a different story back toward North Georgia, as the air is a lot more volatile. So live Super Doppler 4 stretching into Georgia, honestly in an advantageous spot here, stretching down into the I-85 corridor into Georgia, because we're, as a crow flies, about 30 miles away from this, from our Doppler site. So we're getting really a great shot, a great view into the storm on all angles of this. And as I slice this in half, that gives us perspective on how the storm is behaving, because I did not like the look of this approximately 30 minutes ago as we started this coverage, because it had that pronounced hail core. It had that rear flank downdraft wrapping in behind it. We still have a pronounced hail core that gets us up to about 30,000 feet. This is a strong storm, folks. Gets up to 40,000 feet. I mean, that's a tall storm. And at the surface, you have that rotation, which has given us the potential of this causing not only just some strong winds, but also the potential that it would give us an isolated tornado or two. And that's what's happening right now across Hart County and Franklin County, as we've had this locked in on the potential of tornadic activity. But look at the severe weather Atlanta westbound through Birmingham. You've got a consolidated line that is nasty, just moving south and southeast, producing damaging winds in excess of 80 miles per hour in those areas. We're right on the outskirts of that as I turn on our very own live Super Doppler 4, again giving us that instant look at where these storms are located right now. Hart County, Elbert County is where it's at. The rest of us, we have feisty storms right now, and I know that the concern for you, especially in areas that have had damaging and devastating tornadoes in the past 2 or 3 years, you've got lots of lightning in Clemson and Pickens, areas that have had EF2s, EF3s over the past couple of years. You're not seeing it right now. We just don't see rotating thunderstorms. I've got one cell that's sitting over Pickens that does have some strong winds. You see some moderate rotation in the upper parts of the atmosphere near 6 Mile. That's up from about 5-10 minutes ago, but still not enough to kind of jump out. If that continues, we'll need to watch that. But the atmosphere is just way too worked over right now for the majority of the upstate to give us much in the way of problems. It's a much different atmosphere back to our south and west, where we do have rotation sitting over Franklin County and Hart County. But I can tell you this rotation is weakening. It is showing signs of, from its peak, probably at about 350 when that tornado warning was issued, right in there, to where it sits right now. It's much, much weaker. So that's good news. That's the trend you want to see. We're watching Pickens County closely. Again, this is some moderate rotation. I'll level with you. It's there in the atmosphere. It's just not at surface level right now. So we're watching 6 Mile. We're watching eastern Oconee County, southwestern Pickens County. But right now, I'm impressed with what I'm seeing on live Super Doppler 4. The storms are consolidating into one main line in North Georgia. That's what we want to see. We don't want storms out by themselves, because look at temperatures. We're at 76 in Greenwood, at 72 in Spartanburg, but look at northeast Georgia pushing the low 80s right now, which is why we have higher concerns for what's happening in your neck of the woods. So live Super Doppler 4, again, giving us that great look, that minute-by-minute scan that gives us an instant look at not only street level, but town level, where you can expect this activity. In situations like that, seconds count. You need to know where the storm is right now, not minutes later. And that's the advantage we have with our own Doppler. And I can tell you right now, this rotation becoming less and less pronounced, because this line back toward the west is basically devouring those individual cells. Not to say that it can't give us other activity, because as I pause this, we're watching it closely. Notice the swiggle. I'm going to kind of draw this out as if my kids were drawing this. It's got some teeth to it. Anytime you see little squiggles like that in a line, you have to kind of take note, because that tells me the atmosphere is doing something. If it were one straight line, that's one thing. But watching it closely here, mid-level rotation seems to be the trend right now. The National Weather Service saying if this trend continues for the next couple of minutes, they are going to allow this warning to expire. So if this trend can continue, we're going to see this kind of slack up, and the threat will be at least down one category. You know, we're going to keep our eyes peeled on it here. That's our job at WYFF News 4, is to keep you safe. And the second anything turns severe again, we'll be right there letting you know that it's there. But I want to let you know that the velocity, how we measure the winds, this basically is an X-ray looking inside the storm. It lets me know how the winds are behaving. I do not have as much concern over Elbert County and over Franklin County, and even Hart County for that matter, as this cell is beginning to consolidate into one main line. Certainly some strong winds, some lightning. We can handle that. We just don't want to see tornadic activity. And as I scan up toward Pickens County, I've been telling you, hey, we're watching this cell that does have some moderate mid-level rotation. Nothing that's jumping out to me at being near the surface in 6 Mile, but this is where it starts, unfortunately. I don't see this continuing to get worse. In fact, as this cell, as I put it in motion, is moving east, it's moving into an area that's much, much colder. And as live Super Doppler 4 just came in, gave us a brand new scan of that.
Live Super Doppler 4 weather is sponsored by Benson Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
Benson, the name you've trusted for almost 60 years, where we pride ourselves on having the best inventory at the most competitive prices, thanks to Don, our general sales manager. Always discounting when other dealers won't. He's laser focused to make it happen. Shop Don's deals 24/7 at bensoncdj.com.
Our exclusive report from Alaska. As tensions rise with Russia and China in the air, is the threat level increasing? This is part of our continued reporting on how the military is doing.
We see this activity push on through Coldwater, Hart County, Bowersville.
Made from scratch biscuits rise.
Past its peak, as I turn on our debris field, I'm not getting any returns back to me that's showing, okay, debris is being lofted up and our Doppler's detecting it. Not seeing that, which is certainly some good news. And as I turn on our storm reports, though we have that warning that's in place and that flood advisory and concern that's posted for Anderson southbound, there are no concerns as far as active reports coming into me that we're seeing that area be inundated with damage reports. There would be a different thing if we were getting reports in along with that funnel cloud that was spotted. So the funnel cloud's what prompted the warning, because hey, we were watching it on live Super Doppler 4, but it was at the mid levels. But as soon as that came down to the surface and we had that funnel cloud spotted there off I-85 in Carnesville, it's a different ball game at that point. The flooding is another concern that we have right now. Parts of Anderson County east of the lake have had 5 inches of rain today. So in addition to the rotation that's happening right now over Hart County, we do have flood concerns over the upstate as additional rain continues to pour in from northeast Georgia and from East Tennessee. So to recap what's happening right now, we do have a tornado warned storm that was issued just before the 4 o'clock broadcast here, and we're watching it closely as these areas are rolling on through. And both of those areas in Hart County and in Elbert County, we have had our eyes peeled on. thankfully, as this line back toward the west continues to push in from Atlanta, it is basically consolidating those discrete cells that were off by themselves into one main line. So that is certainly the good news in this area, as it does appear that this rotation just got devoured by this more powerful line back towards Sandy Cross. That's a good thing. We can handle the heavy rain, just don't drive in it on I-85. It looks like the worst of it on schedule is pushing out of I-85. So if you have friends or family that were pulled over, you can tell them, okay, cautiously, the worst of it does appear to be south of I-85 right now. It's over Commerce. It's over Danielsville. You're certainly driving down I-85 looking to your west, seeing those tall 40,000-foot storm clouds. That's what prompted a possible tornado warning, or possible tornado with that warning that was over Franklin County and Hart County, and that's where it sits right now. Turning our velocity zone right now, that velocity is all but gone across Hart County, so that is good news. Still got the red meeting the green in Hart County into Elbert County, but it's much less pronounced than it was earlier, and if this trend continues, it looks like the National Weather Service is agreeing. They are going to allow this to end a little bit early, so within the next few minutes we should get an update, probably in 2 minutes I would say, from the National Weather Service as to whether they're going to continue this, if the threat's just elevated enough to continue this warning until its expected expiry time, which was pronounced to be at 4:30. I would expect that to go a little bit earlier because of the fact that this rotation is weakening. So Pickens County, watching that cell over 6 Mile. I want to show you something here, just kind of let you in on kind of inside baseball weather. So something like this would definitely cause me to look at it, okay? You see the green and the red meeting over 6 Mile, but what you have to know is live Super Doppler 4 scanning this, and it's getting into the middle layers of the atmosphere. It also can go down to the lower levels, but this is mid-level rotation. Certainly has my attention, but I know that that's not really at the ground level. Could it go to ground level? Sure, but it would require brighter colors showing up here. And I see a brighter red, but I don't see a brighter green here over 6 Mile. That was a scan 4 minutes ago. Let's go to the latest scan as it rolls on through right there. Notice that that green got less and less pronounced as I moved Doppler, live Super Doppler 4 on out to our current time frame, which is the scan that was at 4:14. So certainly good news there. It appears that it is beginning to weaken there. We'll watch it closely. There comes another scan of live Super Doppler 4. And to recap, we have this warning that was posted for Franklin County and Hart County. Those areas had it, watching it closely. And as it moved on through, getting new updates here from the National Weather Service, they are pontificating. They are thinking about this warning here across Hart County and Elbert County. Again, we still have the red meeting the green, so it's not something we're going to let our guards down on. It's just, does it warrant the sirens going off, people huddling up in the hallways? Probably not, as this cell is beginning to weaken a bit. It was much more pronounced. I'll just show you here. This is a classic supercellular look. You've got the red and the green tightly compact. It's not broad. It's right there at the center, and that's where we were getting that rotation over Franklin County. So that was the look of it in the X-ray form, basically looking at the winds. Let me show you what it looked like on Doppler and what's caused this to become a different situation in 30 minutes time frame. Look at that cell that was by itself. That's a vulnerable cell to this atmosphere. When it's by itself, it was certainly beginning to rotate out. And there you go, 340, 345, 350. Right there probably was the worst of it as I scanned it at 350 when we came on the air. I did not like the look of this because that hail core, classic supercellular look to it. You got the hail core right there. You got the rear flank downdraft wrapping around the potential tornado, which would have been sitting right in that location right there. So we needed to watch it closely. We did, and we've been monitoring it minute by minute here into the 4 o'clock broadcast, where here at 4:16 we sit with this cell that's kind of mixed in with this mess back toward the west. This mess in Commerce. Watching it very closely as well. And again, watching what's happening in the upstate. You got this warning that's in Hart County. You're watching us in Anderson, in Greenville, in Spartanburg, areas that have been raining so far today. But you've got a heavy rainmaker over Pickens. And again, that's a feisty storm, no doubt about it. But as I look at the rotation, kind of looking at all forms, it's got a weird look to it, okay? But it's certainly something to watch as it's moving toward Greenville. I mean, we're going to get one heck of a downpour over Greenville as I trace this out by 4:45. I mean, it's going to be just pouring out, torrential rain. And as I look at this, we've got to watch it. It does have that red and the green meeting right here over Pickens and Easley, but it's not continuing to get worse, okay? The greens especially, those winds that are going toward our radar, which as you can see is just to its south, are not very pronounced. So we're getting a great look at this storm too in Pickens. I got to tell you, Live Super Doppler 4, John and them, when they put this thing in place 30 years ago, picked a really good spot because it's able to see all of the upstate minute by minute. We've got GSP's radar as well. We're able to kind of see on all sides of this. I tell you, the cell that's moving through easily from Pickens into Greenville's entering an environment that's much different. Okay, as I turn on the storm fuel, we don't have a whole lot of it. Actually, there's not any of it at all in Greenville and Spartanburg. Could we get a rumble of thunder? Yes, but you have to go back toward the west to see any of those red colors, which are fuel for storms, because it's just been raining and quite cool out today. Okay, we just don't have the same environment that's back just to our south and west from Greenville, where you're watching this right now in Hart County and Franklin County, and we do have a different environment there. But I got to tell you, those supercellular mini discrete cells basically that were happening over northeast Georgia got consolidated out into one main line, and that's what we're watching closely here for Hart County and Elbert County. As that area just had the worst of the storm roll on through, it quickly funneled up and then kind of fluctuated back down. So northern Elbert County got one hint of some rotation right there. Again, it appears to be in the mid layers of the atmosphere. As I turn on the X-ray, basically gives us that instant look at where the rotation is located, where the winds are twisting and turning. Right now, that's over northern Elbert County, western parts of Hart County into Franklin County. And again, these areas do appear to be improving in conditions as the National Weather Service is watching this closely for these areas. Mid-level rotation appears to be the concern as this rolls into Elbert County, into Abbeville County. Certainly some feisty storms rolling on through. And then we've been watching this cell over Pickens. It does have an interesting look to it. It's a mess. It's simply put is a mess. It's very heavy rainfall, but right in there, you kind of had that classic kind of hook look to it, but it's a lot more stable, a lot cooler in Pickens County than it is right now over northeast Georgia. As we look at the rotation, I'll look at it back from the last 30 minutes, kind of look at it minute by minute. Again, just not seeing anything that jumps out to me other than seeing some mid-level rotation moving through the atmosphere here, heading toward Pickens and Easley. Of course, I'm watching it for you, and I want you to stay on guard, have a way to receive those warnings, because in situations like that, things can change momentarily. Storms fluctuate up in intensity, they fluctuate back down, and in this case this storm is fluctuating down, which is the trend I want to see. So are the storms back toward northeast Georgia. For those of you watching in our viewing area in Elbert County and Hart County and Franklin County, the trend is going in the right direction. I'm not seeing this get worse as it's moving on through. I'm seeing it get better, which is certainly good news. But for the time being, we do have an active tornado warning for Hart County, for Elbert County, and for Franklin County. For those of you that are watching us right now, you know our commitment at WYFF4 is to keep you safe. So anytime there's a tornado warning, our goal, our commitment to you is to stay on until that warning expires, until the threat expires, whichever comes first or whichever comes last, right? So I would come on if this warning was in place and things were looking dire. I'd come on before it if I thought it was going to help you and your family get to shelter, okay? And in this case, the warning has not yet expired. The National Weather Service not quite ready to drop it yet, and it's because there's still some rotation with it, okay? They're watching it closely, and they want to be sure when they sound the all clear from this that it will be all clear indeed, right? They're not going to watch it fluctuate back up, because that would send the wrong message, right? If they were to drop the warning, then it comes right back up. Well, you just told us things were fine. Well, there's a lot that goes into these warnings, and a lot that goes into issuing them or not issuing them, okay? So watching it for Pickens County, just west of Liberty and Easley, we do have some mid-level rotation, which is there. It's on a boundary that separates cooler air into the northern part of the upstate to warmer air, but the current warning that we have in place sits just west of Anderson into Hart County, where the border of Franklin County sets up, and Elbert County, you're still included in that. You're hearing the sirens go off. You're seeing your name at the top of the scroll there, which indicates that there is a threat for you. In this case, it looks like it's now moving through Bowman, like we mentioned, about 4:20. It was right on cue right there, right on schedule. It's moving at its same pace. That's good news. We have a good idea of the speed that these storms are rolling on through at. As Live Super Doppler 4 continues to scan our area, we're watching that over Pickens County as well as northeast Georgia very, very closely. Let's give you a tour of our sky cams because that gives us an idea of what's actually happening at the ground. We're about to get a really heavy storm over Greenville. I want you to know that that's that same storm over Pickens County. It's just going to be pouring at about 440, 445 rolling on through. And then we're watching this activity that's back through Anderson on our sky cam, rocking and rolling there as well as we've got heavy rainfall. This looks toward Georgia, but the storms are about 20 miles, 30 miles away from where this camera is located as a crow flies. So there you go. Watching it closely, and again, got to watch this over Pickens County. It's got that look, it's got that hook back toward it. It's just entering an environment that is much, much cooler. And I tell you that because it's entering our most populated area of the upstate. The corridor from Easley to Greenville just packed full of people, okay? You're going to work, you're going from work to home, whatever you might be doing. Just know that this is a feisty storm, whether it's a tornado warned storm or not. Right now, it's got my attention, I'll say that. It's definitely got that look, but just nothing really that jumps out is immediately concerning. As I analyze it in X-ray form, this gives me that look. And again, we're looking for green meeting red. I see red, certainly, a little bit of green there, but the green certainly not as pronounced as we had back toward the west, or you would like to see if you are thinking there might be a tornado on the ground. So again, we do have mid-level circulation. So the atmosphere here is rotating to some degree in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, but what it's not doing is reaching the ground at this point. If that were to happen, if we were to start to see those colors get brighter or just frankly look a little bit different, we would be a lot more concerned about Pickens and Easley. But again, I'm dialed into it because it is entering our most populated area of the upstate. But again, as I look specifically at the storm fuel, areas east are just much cooler, much more stable. It's a much different environment in those locations because of the fact that we've been so rainy and socked in with the clouds today that temperatures didn't really have a chance to get that warm. So here we are, 78 in Anderson compared to 74 in Greenville compared to 72 in Spartanburg. So you get the picture. This area much more worked over by the rain. It's 80 in Elberton, which is why things have been a lot more feisty in that area. So to recap, just before 4 o'clock, we had a tornado warning issued for Franklin County, Hart County, Georgia. The sirens were going off. It was rough along the I-85 corridor, and a funnel cloud was spotted over Carnesville near I-85. That prompted the National Weather Service to go ahead and pull the trigger on the warning, which prompted the sirens to go off. Just a hectic evening here as we rolled on through Hart County and Elbert County, but I can tell you, things have improved since about 3:50. We had that rotation that was quite pronounced, and then as it fluctuated up and down, we saw it really get quite a bit better in those locations of Hart County and Franklin County. This is all part of a heavy rain swath that's moving on through in an environment that's quite feisty. We have that volatile wind power in the upper parts of the atmosphere, so that caused whatever storm that could get going to begin to rotate. And in this case, those storms got up to 40,000 feet. That is a really high thunderstorm, and when it gets up to that level, it can have the potential to produce rotation. And in this case, we're concerned not only specifically about the tornadoes, that is certainly a concern, but also the amount of rain that we've had. What sticks out to me, a couple of areas today that really had 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. That'd be Lake Robinson up through northeastern Greenville County near Glassy Mountain. You've had 5 inches of rain today. Travelers Rest, 4 inches of rain. That's why there are flood warnings in this area, as well as southwestern Anderson County near Lake Hartwell. Again, flooding a big concern, and with additional storms, including this tornadic cell that's over northeast Georgia rolling through the area, that prompts additional concerns because the rain's not just coming down like it was earlier today at a steady pace. It's just pouring like it would in a thunderstorm. So again, live Super Doppler 4 scanning our area right now, watching it closely for Hart County, Elbert County, surrounding areas right on the county line of Elbert and Hart and Franklin County. Franklin County, I can tell you the threat is over for you. You still see your name in the chat, but you've exited the chat, so to speak. All right, you're fine. This is over Hart and Elbert County, and there are 2 cells that we were watching, and I want to show you the colors. Basically, what I look for as a meteorologist, the brighter the colors, the more concern. We had that back toward the west, but as this scan rolled on through, each scan that came through got increasingly better for us. The rotation got less pronounced, those colors a lot more muted, to where we sit with our latest scan that was at 427. looking okay. We are monitoring the cell over Pickens County. As we look at the x-ray version of it, yeah, there's red and green meeting. A little bit more red, which is wind going away from the radar, not as much wind going toward the radar, which again, got to watch closely, because as I turn on Doppler, it does have that hook look. Anytime you see a hook or a shape like that on a cell, it causes you to kind of give it a second or third look. And in this case, watching that closely for you folks in Pickens County, as well as Lake Jocassee and Lake Kiwi, both have that look that is a bit concerning here as we're watching that in those areas. Looks like these storms are running out of fuel, though, is the case. As this moves toward Greenville, again, this has my extra concern is we're watching it for Greenville, one of our most populated areas of the upstate, if not the most populated area, a corridor here between Easley, Pickens, and Greenville through Five Forks. This area is just chock full of people. It's a population center in the upstate, and this cell is moving right toward it. So again, we're watching it. Our eyes are peeled on it. Should it become severe or tornadic, you know we're going to let you know about it as soon as it does. But I can tell you it's about to ring big time in Greenville. A nasty cell. I mean, that is a strong storm moving toward Greenville, Simpsonville, Five Forks, Woodruff Road, Roper Mountain Road, Augusta down toward 123 into Pickens County. I mean, we're talking big time rain in these areas, and it still has that look. Looking toward northeast Georgia, the good news, it looks like this line back toward the west, which by the way is feisty as well, basically scooped up those individual discrete cells and became one main line. That's good for our tornado concerns, because it basically scooped up what's going on in those areas and basically gave us that potential for it beginning to weaken. So that's why things have increased. Things have gotten a little bit better for us. Our conditions have improved, and as these storms are moving into an environment that's a lot more stable, worked over with the rain, things are looking better. But again, I am watching this closely and easily. It's got that look, certainly does, of a supercellular type storm, a little miniature supercell heading toward Greenville right here. We're watching it. I'll put a track on it here for you. Brand new one in. Shows it'll be in Greenville at 4:53, Simpsonville at about 5:17. So Five Forks in between there, Woodruff Road, Roper Mountain Road at about 4:10, 4:15. So watching that closely. It does look like the National Weather Service will let this warning expire in about 30 seconds for northeast Georgia, so that's some good news here. This warning that we've been watching so diligently for these areas will expire at 4:30 for northeast Georgia. But again, we're watching the cell over the upstate. Frankly, putting it frankly, it is not moving into an environment that's more volatile. It's moving into an environment that's cooler, more stable. So that is good news for us. And good news, I can confirm with you, our newsroom, as well as the National Weather Service, as well as all the data that I can see from my probably 10 screens over here off screen, I'm not seeing any damage. So that's certainly good news. A situation that was very volatile, had the potential to give us a tornado. It does not look like it has. We do not have reports of damage, but certainly it has been an eventful afternoon and evening here in the Weather Center. Gabrielle and Jane, I guess we're sending things over. Is that where we're going, Ben? Yeah, it appears we're going over to Gabrielle and Jane. We'll send it over to you as kind of regroup over here, get our radar back up to date.